look at that. I totally messed with everybody's mind. Thought they were going to get another 30 seconds of that. Sorry about that. Welcome to Real Migos. Jeremy Knight, your favorite Real Migo host. I got my good man, Ian of Austin, here tonight again. Ian, hello. You can unmute.
Hey, what's up, man? What's
Awesome,
going on,
man.
everybody? Logan, nice to meet you.
Likewise.
And we got Logan Fulmer. He's out of San Antonio, but this guy is one of the most impressive people I've ever met. So I'm excited to meet with him. You're not really a realtor, but you do a lot of investing. You buy businesses, you do title stuff. You do some of the craziest stuff, like listening to some of the stories you told me. He bought a hot sauce company and turned it around to like being super crazy hot sauce company. So we want to welcome Logan in. Nice to have you, man.
Yeah, no doubt. Thank you. I appreciate it. So we got to meet at a friend of our house's when our friend Tim and Pond Macy, who are super duper realtors. So that was kind of a neat happenstance thing, but I'm happy to meet you because I got a lot of the same respect for you, my dude.
Awesome, man. Well, I'm stoked. Why don't you, listening to some of the stories, why don't you break down real quick what it is that you do and what's made you really successful at some of the stuff you've been doing?
And at heart, I'm a deep value investor. That's one of those Wall Street words. But what it really means is I'm looking to buy something for less than it's worth. And you can do it with businesses, but I didn't start out that way. It was real estate. And I had to find a way to get good deals on real estate. And if you call enough people, you can do that. But you can call a lot fewer people if they're selling real estate that have major problems. And I don't just mean leaky roof. I mean like big time title problems, ownership disputes, like 30 people, 65 people in title, not just one owner, 65, things like that. So I've got an office of 15 people. I've got an attorney, private investigator, genealogist, some admin staff, and some junior partners. And we wrap our hands around deals like that. We embrace it.
Nice. So now that we have somebody who's on that does actual crazy investing, like fun stuff, we've seen the market slow down pretty quickly here over the last couple of weeks. The whole title today is housing market shift. I want to hear from Ian what his perspective is in the market, but I want to hear from you what you're expecting coming up. And I want to hear like what investors should be looking for.
Okay. So I do expect we're at the time of the market where there's just complete exhaustion from material suppliers to builders to lenders. Interest rate hikes are happening. All the signs are there. We're beyond 10 years into a bull market. So it is time. Y'all are seeing it. I do see it in part of my sales side for sure. So I really think now is the time that people need to stay very disciplined. There are fortunes made in changing times, but some people who aren't watching are going to miss the ball. It's going to smack them. They're going to fall out. If you're watching keenly, paying attention to everything, and you're really engaged, you're not going to miss the ball.
Gotcha. So what are some things people should be looking out for?
Currently, in terms of for an investor side, I think it's very different from a home buyer. A home buyer, I don't know that I'd do anything different. I mean, home buyers have to make these big, broad decisions. They got a new job. They're moving their mom down to live with them. They need a bigger house because they have more kids. I think they should continue buying homes as they normally would if they need it. I wouldn't change your decision on your major life, things. If you're an investor, I would be looking for better discounts. I would be looking for more certainty. All problems are solved in real estate with a bigger discount. In this case, it's really important to talk about this one thing. Margin of safety is what protects an investor from losing their principal. That's actually a profit margin, but that profit margin can double into a margin of safety if you have to lower your price to sell. So I look at that as that's how much I can lower my price to sell to not lose any of my investment. It can also double as a profit margin. So you got to be buying a little bit more disciplined.
Got it. And I think and Ian, this is where you should chime in. Over the last 2 weeks, I've put my own so I've purchased over the last actually less than a month. I've purchased and closed on a property for myself, which is crazy. A new home. My home is under contract. We had multiple offers out the gate on my property. Nice. And now I'm in the middle of buying an investment property in New Braunfels. So I'm in the market.
Sorry to interrupt you. That's another key thing. I don't know how I forgot this. When markets and times are changing, buying marquee assets never goes out of style. So you're buying in New Braunfels is what you said?
Yeah.
New Braunfels is a budding market. It's a tiny town. It's busting at the seams. They can't get new development approved. So there's a heavy demand, very healthy, and there's a very low supply of product. I call that a marquee situation, a marquee town. So investing in marquee towns never goes out of style. Sorry.
No, you're totally that's why I looked at New Braunfels. Everybody, I did a whole video about this. I was looking at all the major markets that were not performing at the same level as the Austin market is, because it was getting really expensive and it was harder to make money or cash flow on properties, right? Not everybody wants a cash flow. When I looked at this development in New Braunfels, I saw all the same things happening in Austin 3 years ago. And so that I thought, okay, well, this is going to be Austin 3 years from now, which means I should get in now. Because when's the best time to buy a home? 20 years ago, right? Anyway, Christina, I've invited you on the show. Ian, what are you seeing in the market right now? What's going on with you?
Man, I've had some situations. One of them. So today I put a house on the market, ended up getting multiple offers. 2 of them backed out today. One of them because the builder was, so it's resale in the same community that there are new builds. And apparently the builder was like negotiating against our offer.
Oh my God, to get new inventory?
Wait, what? They were like, oh, I think we can beat that. We'll give you this. I said, okay.
They're going to repaint it and resell it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh.
Wait, so the builder was going to buy it from your client?
No. From the people that made the offer on my listing.
Okay.
The builder saw them. They ended up chatting, and the builder was like, well, we can get you a new one, and we'll help you with a lot of the out-of-pocket costs.
Oh.
This is approaching $700,000. It's not like, it's not like a $400,000 house. But I guess all these costs, they're a factor, all of them.
So, okay.
So they're losing upgrades. They're losing landscaping. They're losing appliances. Like all these things were part of the deal. And this was a corner lot, so larger lot, 1 block from the amenity center.
So okay, so you put a house on the market that had multiple offers though this week. Today's Wednesday. So when did you put it on?
Friday.
Okay. So you're still seeing multiple offers in the market today. What was the price on that? Close to 700? What neighborhood?
I listed it 675, and it was in Sorrento.
Really? Okay. Mm-hmm. Nice. So we're not quite there yet where you can get deep discounts on properties, but what I'm seeing in the new build market is exactly, look how clear I look today, by the way. Don't I look way clearer? What the hell's the deal?
You got some new face cream.
Yeah, what the heck? So normally I'm like fuzzy because of the background, but a lot of these new build constructions, I'm seeing a lot of discounts, a lot of incentives, and I'm still telling people it's better to buy resale right now. So, I mean, what are your thoughts? Like just in the general market, if you're investing, would you be buying new build or resale right now, Logan?
For me, you can always get a better deal on something that's a little bit older than you can new product or replacement product. But you've got a lot of funds that are buying properties, and for them, it's easier to buy something brand new to make it a rental, and they're hoping to get appreciation over 5 or 10 years. So for those guys, it makes sense. Even some folks that want to have a rent house but literally don't want to mess with it at all, don't want to even paint a wall, new inventory might be a better answer because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've seen on the comments on a video I did this week, somebody was saying like, oh, the prices on a lot of these homes that need work are coming down really quickly. Well, that's always been the case. If you put a house in the market that needs work, generally people don't want to do that. They just want to move in and not have to deal with anything. So, but I like to buy new construction as my rental properties. That way I have nothing to mess with. But if I was looking for other properties, I would always be looking for a fixer upper, but I don't want to do a deep fixer upper because I don't have all the connections to spend. Right now, how hard is it to get construction people do work in San Antonio and in Austin?
tough. I'm not a huge fan of construction. I'm purposefully staying away from a lot of construction because of what you're saying.
Yeah. Now, you bought a really cool property in Austin recently, and you emailed me, you're like, hey, who do you have for this? Did you end up selling that one, right?
Right.
So tell us, like, so for people that think that like there's no good deals, tell us
gosh.
like what happened with this deal.
So it was a 2 duplexes on a 15,000 square foot lot. I paid $1.4 million for it. And when I realized, they told me the number, I just did a quick look. And I was like, yeah, that's a deal. I tried to get the closing as quickly as I could because I didn't want them changing their mind. I ran a CMA and knew it was worth at least $2 million. The moment, like literally that exact moment, they inherited the property. They just didn't have a lot of really good advice, and they just literally mispriced it. And that's where a good part of the opportunity I see comes from. They just misprice it. So I immediately closed on it, listed on the market for 2.2. I thought I was going to get a little bit better than 2. I didn't. I got a $2 million offer, and that's exactly what the comp said it was going to sell for, $2 million. And that was in one of the hottest zip codes in Austin.
Yeah, you sent me that, and I was like, dang, that's my favorite zip code, man. 78704, one of the best.
Yeah.
It's continually. I always tell people, if you're going to invest and you want to invest in a zip code, always look at 78704 and try to find a deal there, which you did.
One of the things I have to make sure that is fair that I disclose is that month, that was 2 months ago when I bought that month, my prospect list started with 40,000 property leads. So when you're looking for a deal like that, I'll get anywhere between 10 and 15 really good deals a month, and I'll buy them. That's what my deal flow looks like. We're starting out with between 30 and 100,000 prospect lists at the beginning of the month, and people are 4 people for 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, calling with a dialer. Do you want to sell your property? So 40,000 leads extrapolates to about 10 deals. But you do several deals like that, and you got a good month.
Yeah. Yeah. But then you got to figure out how to take the money you make off that and put it so you don't have short-term gains on it.
So in that case, that happens a lot with me, but because I have deal flow, I can 1031 exchange it into another property really, really easily. And even if I don't have it identified, I can go ahead and close the intermediary, and I'll have the next deal pop in the next couple of weeks, so I can pop it in there. So in that case, I try to exchange it long enough to where I can get myself into long-term treatment. And then I'll go ahead and start a new exchange cycle with a new property.
Gotcha. That's interesting.
But if you have that kind of flow, you have to do that. Otherwise, you'll get destroyed on taxes.
I mean, what is short-term gains on? Like, let's say you did that and you just needed the cash on it, right? Like you didn't have the time to 1031, you need the cash immediately. So you're looking at 1.4, 2 million. You're probably what, 530 net on that, 540 net. So what do you pay for taxes on something like that?
Top bracket.
Yeah. So what,
30, top there.
35 or more?
No, I think it's almost 40. I have to look now, but yeah, it's in the high 30s, I think.
Okay. So that's why I'm not going to sell my New Braunfels property the day we close.
It's a tricky balance because a lot of folks choose to not do a real estate deal because they're going to pay a lot in taxes. And I always say, don't think about the taxes. You can manipulate your whole life and pay a lot lower taxes. But when you find great deals, you do the deal, you take your money, and you live free with it. You need that money for another deal. You need the liquidity, the flexibility. You got to pay the taxes, man. You got to pay. That's the cost of doing business. But now that I'll have a large chunk of free capital I can deploy anyway, and someone over there that's saying I'm only going to do exchanges, they're locked into this narrow window. I got another deal that I can do that they actually not are able to do that deal because they don't have the flexibility I do. So I'll roll that money 4 or 5 times while they're over here trying to figure out how to do an exchange.
Yeah, that's smart. So are you a lawyer?
No,
okay.
I thought I'd go to law school a few years ago, and I realized I was going to bleed cash by not running my business. So it's a fun study. I enjoy it. But
hey, Logan, can you talk just a little bit? You don't have to spend a lot of time on it, but just a little bit more about how you built your team and why you chose the members that you did. Like you said, I think you said genealogist.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that is. Help me understand.
Right. So you have a family tree with all this data. How many people are in your family? What country did they come from? What
Yeah, I
year
guess
did
I
they
knew
get
what that was.
here?
But you know what I
Who
mean.
did they?
Like,
Well,
why would you?
but it
Okay.
goes deep though. Like,
Yeah.
who did they marry?
Like
What
title
county
search
did they
stuff.
marry them in?
Mhm.
Did they get divorced? Did they have a common law wife? Like, there's all this data that you need. And the reason that's important is I'm in San Antonio, but this happens in a lot of other cities. You have very old property ownership. I do a lot of ranch flips, and that's big time there. Great grandpa had that land, and he got the deed in 1909. When he died, he had 5 kids. One of them still lived there, kept farming it, kept paying the taxes. He lived on there his whole life, 60 years. So now, sometime in the 50s, he dies, and his daughter's still living there. She's paying the taxes. It's still in great granddaddy's name. So now, come 2022, somebody wants to sell it, and they realize there's no way it'll work. So a realtor or somebody refers them to me. So what we do is I say, look, man, this property's worth $1 million probably. You just got yourself a CMA. Here's the deal. We just did a quick search and realized there are about 35 owners on this thing. It's a mess. So I can't give you $1 million. I'll give you 400 grand for it. But since you can't sell it, you can come to my office and pick up a cashier's check tomorrow for 400 grand. Like, no title insurance. My lawyer will close the transaction. Here's your steep discount. I'm like a pawn shop of real estate. So I give them a discount, and then my genealogist will build that entire family tree. Once I know everybody that's in it, then my private investigator goes and finds them and gives them a letter that says, my name's Logan. I'm trying to clear a bunch of title defects. If you'd like to get some money for your share of the property, call me.
Hey, Jeremy.
Yeah.
We're doing it wrong.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you, dude, when I sat with Logan about a month and a half ago, I was just like, damn, I am doing this all wrong. So that's why I wanted to have him. And I immediately told him, like, hey, I want to bring you on Real Amigos because I think there's some value in what you do. And Logan, you go do like full on talks on doing this stuff, right?
Yeah. Folks have been asking me this for years, and I got busy. I love my craft. I've got an office full of 5 partners. That's part of the way I was able to grow my business is instead of me trying to hire and train high-end people like you guys, y'all aren't going to go work for somebody. So I said, look, let me be a business partner with you. I'll open up your company. I'll fund it with the capital. I'll teach you how to do deals. Let's build this business together. So I got 5 guys that I'm building businesses with that way.
You mean 7 guys?
Well, me.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, right.
So Old Fashioned wrote this one. There's 2 great questions that I want to get to in a second here. This one about the HEB and Kohl's in Manor. And then the other one somebody wrote, it was another investment one. Oh, North versus South Austin, better investment. So I want to answer those 2 in a second. But Logan, I want to hear about this hot sauce company.
Oh, yeah.
So tell us about how you did this and like how you even came up with this.
So the real estate business is growing and working well. Business partner of mine is a CPA. So he's linked in with a lot of deal makers, investment bankers. There's an investment banker that stopped working for the bank he was working for and said, I'm going to do some of these deals on my own. So he stumbled across a company. It's called a white label manufacturer. So what the company is, it's set up to bottle and package and label salsa barbecue sauce. So old man was getting ready to retire. He was super old, didn't have any kids he was going to give it to. And the same thing, his advice probably could have been better on his valuation. He pops up and says, this company's making $2 million a year net, 10 million gross. So 10 million in sales, 8 million in expenses, 2 million in net profit. And we say, we'll give you $6.5 million for it. And he says, okay. So we think this company is worth far more than that. So we bought it. We paid $2 million in cash, borrowed $4.5 million from the bank, and we had just a handful of partners. So we each put in our share. The guy that put the deal together is going to be the guy who's the point man. So he stepped in and turned the management around, updated process procedures, cleaned up the plant. We're doing some expansion. The first thing he did is just went to all the clients and said, hey, I know the guy that's been running this thing has been winding it down for the last few years. We would like to wind it up. Do you have any new orders if we're able to facilitate it? Every one of them said, can we double our order? Because they were just dying for it. So we got some expansion plans. We've been in the investment about 1.5 years, and it's doing incredibly well.
Yeah, I bet it's doing. I bet that 10 million. I mean, look, you're looking at, it's only a 20% net that you're making on that, right? So I guarantee you've took it from a 20% net and have increased that net pretty substantially, right?
Right. So it's up to about 25% now.
Right.
But the kicker is on 10 million is what it was doing. We're expecting this year, if we're lucky, it hits 20 million. So now we have 25% of 20 million instead of 20% of 10. So
that's awesome. Okay.
yeah.
So, all right. So now that we've
but I got to tell you though, I'm looking
Okay.
at this investment the same way as I am real estate. I'm looking for a marquee asset, a really good one with some good opportunity, either increase the revenue somehow, or I just got it at such a good deal relative to what it's worth today. The investment stands on its own.
Dude, hot sauce is a forever commodity. It really is.
People love it. And what's more interesting is there are a ton of brands out there, and it's very expensive to build this plant to make it. And all these guys that want to do these boutique brands, it's not worth it for them to build the entire manufacturing plant. So that's why this business model doesn't work really for beer or certain other products, but for salsa and barbecue sauce, it really works.
That's awesome, man. Ian, let's get into the hot sauce business, man. Do you dare people to put hot sauce in their eyes at any point, or how?
I'm good.
Some of them are so ruthless. I don't even know how they eat this stuff. Like that is not fun.
I know.
That's funny. I want to answer this question real quick about North versus South Austin. What do you think? I mean, you're in San Antonio, right? So, I mean, obviously you don't know the Austin market that well, but what are the differences in investing in properties North and South Austin? Something worth mentioning. What do you think, Ian? Go ahead, Logan.
No, go ahead, Ian. Sorry, my bad. I talk too much sometimes. Go ahead, Ian.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you are listening to Logan's strategy, which is the marquee, right now, North has been growing a lot longer and faster than South has, right? So North, the price points are still much higher. However, there's still so much more growth, so many more announcements to go. I look at it like, what do you think is better? This is a trick question. Dallas or San Antonio? Because if it's a long 35, that's what you're asking yourself, right? You're asking yourself, which direction is the growth going to be more prominent? So we know that Boring Company was trying to work with San Antonio to build a tunnel. We keep hearing stuff like that. But then also Cybertruck they just announced that Samsung won the deal for the camera.
Of course they did. They're building a plant.
No, well, I know, but it wasn't official, right? All of this is speculation and talk. And like you still see all of this growth in both directions. I think you can only really go wrong if you're going east and west. But as far as what's better, KVU just announced Georgetown is fastest growing, right?
That was for 2021. I still think it's probably they have room. Here's my opinion. I want to hear Logan's opinion, but my opinion is I still think it's better to invest South Austin, depending on what you're buying, because South Austin isn't building as heavily as North Austin is. That's true. Prices are organically going up because there's not enough supply south. I'm a big fan of buying South Austin. And I feel like the rents are always higher South Austin. It's just the way I've done it. And I really like Dripping Springs. Wink, nod, anybody with me on that one, because Dripping Springs has a water issue, and so they're already stopped building. They've told developers to stop developing in Dripping Springs, which means the prices only have one direction to go. So Logan, so that's why I feel strongly about South, but I do want to hear from you, Logan. What if you were doing the crystal ball and which is the best? Although I do want to say, if I'm investing, I'm definitely looking heavily at Manor with good tax rates, and I'm looking on that north east side because of all the development coming in on that corridor off I-35. So
it's solid manufacturing line.
Yeah, it's
all along 130.
Yeah, but I want to hear your.
Well, I'll tell you. So you asked me if I was going to invest, but Ian, you said a minute ago, you're speculating. Is it Dallas or is it San Antonio? So I don't speculate. I like to speculate at the bottom of a market. In 2008, I speculated. I bought 25 lots, waited for them to go up in value, and sold them because the market was going. So when we're talking about investing, I'm looking for a known return and something that's understood right now. And for me, it's not really about what's going to develop in the path of growth, north or south. It's about how good is the deal. So I would want to find 3 deals on the north side and 3 deals on the south side and say, which one is the most smoking deal? That's the one I want to get because I'm making a decision based on a known discount today instead of which direction it's going to go.
Not future value.
Yep. Now, if the market crashes and goes all to pieces, that's when you want to say, smoking deals are everywhere, so you can speculate. Well, I think the development's going to go more north because of the tunnel or whatever. That's when you'll speculate.
Oh yeah, and then they're going to put the tunnel down to San Antonio, which is going to be fantastic.
I'm a big fan of San Antonio for a lot of reasons. One of them is it's the 7th largest city in the States, but in my opinion, it's in the top 25 cities. It's the least undervalued. I mean, you used to be able 10 years ago, I bought houses downtown for $10,000 and $15,000. Those same houses that I have right now are worth 150, 170 grand. So we've had extreme value increases. And because we're still such an affordable city, I'm seeing people values just fly up within an hour of Austin. I bought apartment complexes within an hour of Austin because the rents went from $900 to $1,800 in 24 months. And I'm seeing that same effect of it bleeding down to San Antonio because Austin is so crazy expensive and we're an hour and a half away.
That's 100% why I looked at New Braunfels. That I looked at that market. I don't know the San Antonio market that well. I help buyers there often, but like to know the ins and outs, like I know the ins and outs in Austin. It's two separate things, right? But when I looked at New Braunfels, I said this market is starting to go crazy now, and I put that house under contract as a new build before it went real crazy. This was like March of 2021, and then it went stupid nuts crazy. And so what's crazy is if I were to sell that house now, I would have 150 in equity in it the day we close.
Larry, let's stop for a minute. Let's talk about that. Right now, the market is cooling off, right? It's probably not going to be just bullishly appreciating in the next 24 months. You just picked up 150,000 in equity in the last 12 months while you're waiting for this to build this. You probably are not going to pick up another 150,000 in the next 3 years, right? Nope. So what if you sell that house, take your $150,000 and split that up and say, I'm going to make that 2 down payments, 75 on each house and buy 2 houses.
It's not a bad idea. Although I mean, if I'd have to 1031 for sure if I do that. But yes, I don't think that's a bad idea. The problem
unless you bought them in San Antonio.
Yeah, I'd have to buy them in San Antonio.
Just pay cash.
The problem is that interest rates on that right now are 6.5% for an investor. That really eats into is plus, especially in Austin with property taxes going up as high as they have. Even like Cullen County, what's Bear County announced they were like 40% increases. Austin's 56% increases. So that's where it's getting tough. And I think that's why we're seeing the market cool as fast as it's cooling.
I think that has a lot to do with it. Jobs are not improving as quickly as cost of houses, of rents are. That's huge. Big one. Interest rates are starting to climb a little bit. So yeah, you combine all those and for sure. Now, I think we're going to be a little bit luckier than a lot of other places. When the market had that crash in 2008, we still had a really, really attractive place because we had energy business here. We've got really attractive tax environment for businesses. Those were all great. But what that's done in the last couple of years is it's caused this great migration of businesses to come from the coast into Texas. We've also had the business environment helps with that as well, which is incredible. Energy, we still have energy. That's just popping again. So that's good. We've got a lot of institutional money parked on the sidelines, I think, that are trying to do the Blackstone deal of 10, 15 years ago as buy single family. So I think since Texas is one of the best places to be right now, as the market starts to soften, that institutional money is going to start to activate more and say, let's get these single family houses. Now that doesn't keep houses in circulation. That takes them out of circulation for quite some time, but it still creates more transactions and helps sustain that pricing.
Interesting. So one of the reasons people, so on KView, they had a guy come on there. I'm not going to say his name.
What's his name, Jeremy?
So I was actually going to sit and do a full video.
I thought he was going to say it.
I was going to do a full video today, breaking down and putting it out on why he was wrong. I just don't want to continue to give him airtime. That's kind of why I decided not to. But one of the things that he's saying is that so the cost to the The cost to income ratio is out of whack. That's one thing. But the one thing I have to always say about when it comes to incomes are a lagging indicator, just like rentals are. So the other thing, he said that price to rent values are off and not moving up as fast. And then all of a sudden, rental rates went up 35%. One thing I think that everyone keeps missing, and this is why I keep holding to the fact that I don't see a major crash, definitely a correction, definitely a cooling. Why I don't think we're going to see this major crash is that the amount of millennials, the buying age 33 to 40, is still in the next 8 to 10 years is still much higher than it was in 08.
Interesting. A generational change can do that. Those are one of those things that not everybody looks for directly, but yeah, that can be very meaningful. They're in that. The baby boomers are doing their retirement and selling off and moving to small houses in force, and maybe the millennials are coming into their new housing.
They're paying at a much higher cost though, right? So if you look at it, so part of the argument of why is the birth rate is going down. Well, the thing with the birth rate going down is the simple fact that more and more people are delaying having kids because costs are more expensive, or they're deciding not to have kids.
It's an interesting point. You know, something else that may alleviate some of the pressure, this started to happen in California a long time ago. They started doing the exotic mortgages, the 40 and 50-year mortgages.
I just got a 10-year mortgage or a 10-year fixed or a 10-year ARM on my.
Oh, that's what you got? That's interesting. You know, I wonder, in California, the incomes weren't going up as quickly as the housing, and it wouldn't work. It literally wouldn't work. So they started doing these 40 and 50-year mortgages over in California because housing prices are just blowing through anywhere near reasonable amounts to the cost of income. I would assume that they're going to start doing longer mortgages. That would alleviate the pressure on the pricing.
So I'm seeing some things that concern me about mortgages, though. So you're right. But what concerns me is that their CMG, which is Sarah's group, Ian, is starting it's an AIO program that it was only investors were using it, and now they're giving it to. They actually tried to sell me on it for my mortgage. So basically, the way it works is, I'm going to get this all wrong, but basically, it's like you're taking a line of credit on the entire value of the house, and the more you pay down, the more credit on the house you have. Very similar. Instead of doing a whole like mortgage where you're paying off the mortgage. I don't know. This is a weird thing. But so anyway, what I'm saying is that there's a lot of new products that they're going to have to come out with. And I think that's part of why a lot of people think 08 was, 08 had a lot of issues, but in 08, we had a lot of these bad products that were getting bundled up and put as mortgage-backed securities and things like that. We're not seeing those same things right now. And I think these banks are going to have to come up with more creative ideas to get more buyers to be able to afford the mortgages. So I think that could be an issue in the future.
Well, leave it to them. They're creative. They're churning through a lot of money, and they will come up with new ideas. No doubt about that.
I don't know that I always said no to ARMs. I said no to 5-year ARMs. This is a 10-year ARM. We're going to pay the home off in a year. So it's not really, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's why we did it.
Yeah. That's awesome. I see that stuff on commercial mortgages a lot, shorter terms, things like that. But on residential, it seems like 30 years the common one these days, fixed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see 40-year mortgages and 50-year mortgages being prominent for people.
I'm not saying it's right, but I could see that happening.
Right.
Well,
sure. And they did it in the auto industry first, right? Or recently.
You're right. They were like 3-year loans and 5-year. Now you can finance a car for like 7 or 8 years.
7 years. That car is not going to last 7 years. Come on.
You're right. That's a good point. And now when they realize it won't last 7 years, they start to sell gap insurance.
Yeah.
Yes. Gap. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting.
Did you guys see the numbers, Jeremy? There were more than 1,000 price decreases this week.
Yeah. In fact, I was going to bring that up. So if you look at the price decreases, so right now there's 5,700 homes in the Austin MLS. It was 1,023 price decreases. See, I'm good at these numbers. 23%. Guess what? 23% of the price decreases were from
new builds.
Nailed it. Yes. So that's one of the biggest chunks. But here's the deal: is that if you look, and we talked about this last week or a week ago, a lot of those price decreases were like 2-4%. There's a couple that were big, like 20%, 16%, but for the most part, they were slightly low. I personally equate that to people thinking that the line is going to continue going like this and not understanding that when we hit June, it does this and kind of does a level out through the rest of the year. So we'll see. This is why I'm saying I think we'll see a 10% drop. Aaron's right here. I think we'll see a 10% drop in prices between now and August.
I tell you what's going to hurt even worse. Look at another interest rate bump, a couple of them by the end of the year when that happens, and the summer selling season cools off. You got serious business, man.
That's what I'm saying for all those people that have been on the sidelines as a buyer, who've been FHA, VA, and you're looking at these prices cooling. Now is an opportunity, especially, I'm telling you, June's a fine month to buy a property. July is a fine month to buy a property, but where you're going to get a better deal where prices might be a little better is definitely going to be in the August, September timeframe, because everybody's going to be freaking out. And a lot of these sellers that put their homes on the market, they didn't sell right away. They're going to, instead of waiting 14 days to drop, they're going to 14 days, like 7 days, they're dropping because now they're really nervous. And that's why I'm seeing, I think that's why we're seeing so many price decreases too. You could correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, is that after a week of not going under contract, people like got scared and started price dropping.
They're like, well, what happened? This is the hot market. We're still the hottest market, right? But they're, news, while it travels fast, people don't take action quickly. So that chart that I put up, that was just the historic. So those are numbers not including 2022. So any current, under construction, and only single family residential. But it shows the trend for, last 10 years.
Yeah. Interesting. Oh, here, I'll pull it back up. Sorry. So people can see you're talking
right.
about.
So people can see the dip. The dip is almost always, like you said, around the June month. And now the last one was in October, the big one.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, that was the bottom was October. It was really August that we saw the biggest decline, and then another short decline. And then by November, it was starting to level back out. So what I'm predicting is, if you're looking at this chart, and if you're looking at, like, it's kind of hard to see, I can't really zoom in, but if you're looking at one of these dips, right? There you go. So let's go to like the 19 dip, right? So if you're looking at the 19 dip, it dipped towards the end of the year and then came back up, right? Same thing. So I think what we're going to see is this same thing. And then if you look, it leveled out for a long time and then it dropped back down. And that drop was actually 2020, like going into 2020. So, so I think we're going to just see a lot of this after this drop that we're going to see right now, which I keep saying it happens. You're going to see a lot of just 1 month it'll be up, the next month it'll drop a little bit, the next month up. I'm already seeing that in the numbers for June. I like to look at the numbers as they come out, and we're already seeing for June, when I'm seeing closings for June are for the median for the MSA is right at the median for April's numbers, which is 550. I'm starting to see the median right now is 550, but it's still over list price. Everything was like 102%. But one question I wanted to ask, there's a lot of new construction coming out. And one of the reasons that person keeps saying that we're going to see a crash, I think they don't think about the last 15 years. We've had not as much inventory being built to meet the demand, but we have a lot of builders, quote unquote, overbuilding right now. Do you think that's something that's going to create the market or really push prices down?
That's tough to know. Builders have been working really hard to get more inventory on the ground because there's been such a shortage. So I don't know. Apparently there's a national shortage of housing. They keep saying that. So that's a tough one to predict, man. You might have to have a guy a lot smarter than me. I will tell you, builders do have a tough time. It's either have too many houses or not enough houses. Too many houses, they never can find an equilibrium. So
well, I mean, part of that's all product too. I mean, they're just now lumber features are coming down, and so, but there's still supply chain issues. The supply chain's not really there yet to help them out. One thing that I really want to note You just said smarter people than I. What I find hysterical is that you do very well investing, very well. You've made some really smart moves. The person that KView decided to bring on to name the expert does not own any real estate. And he's the real estate expert. He moved from Austin to Dallas because it got too expensive for him. And then made this whole video about how he's leaving Austin and just shit all over Austin.
So here's the problem with that. If you go on YouTube and you look up this person, and you sort by popular videos, that's all these researchers from, the interns and stuff are doing for these news corporations. So they're just going to sort and say, oh, he's got however many views on this video about Austin. He must be the expert. It's like,
Yeah, exactly. Well, he calls himself a data analyst. So he's good at looking at numbers. He's good at making up numbers that aren't there. But his whole thing is that the market's going to crash in the next 3 years in Austin. That's like hedging my bets. That's like saying in the next 15 years, we're definitely going to see a housing crash because we probably will in the next 15 years. Right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so you're just hedging your bets. So like, that's what drives me nuts. Cause he even said it was going to crash in 2021. He said it was going to crash in 2022. Now he's saying it takes 5 years to crash.
I will tell you, we've been looking about 2020 in our office. I keep saying, gosh, this market is just bananas bonkers. We're so white hot. Any crazy war or any weird economic factor could be a tipping point for a true unexpected crash. But we didn't know what that looked like. So we right-sized parts of our business to be completely prepared for that, just so we're incredibly nimble. And any moment it can happen already. But we realized the signs are more likely that it could happen than it could not happen. So we know that. But my wife's brother is a hedge fund guy on Wall Street. Some of the brightest minds in the investing business. And those guys will tell you we can't even predict it. So this dude's saying we're going to have a crash at this time. He's kind of like throwing a football and trying to run out there and catch it and hope he looks like the brilliant guy. But if he says there's going to be a crash in this year 3 times, if he's right one of those times, he can take that video and make himself look really good.
Yeah, of course. What do you think about the future of San Antonio, New Braunfels area?
They're bleeding right together, man. People are still continuing to come here because it really is an affordable, neat place to live. We've got some neat hill country out here. We've got a lot of cool little towns. Living in San Antonio is incredible for me because I don't have the crazy traffic that a lot of big cities do, but I have the fanciest restaurants. We've got great attractions for the kids. I mean, I love this place. And it's one of the reasons I came. And I think it's other reasons why more people are coming.
Aaron said he inversed what the data guy said in he misinterprets data. That's funny. What about like New Braunfels as far as like future growth? I think we talked about this earlier. I think you said that area is booming.
I do. I'm a big fan of it. I've done several projects in New Braunfels. I'm looking at more property right now. We're working through some good deals over there. I really like it. It's such a small, tiny, quaint town on an incredible river. It's literally out of space, and folks want to continue to come there. So what that does to pricing is it just strengthens it. It's a really cool place. If you stayed over the weekend over there, it's super cool.
Well, the property I bought, you know where a Green Hall is?
Yeah.
So if you come out of the development and look down the street, you can see Green Hall.
I know another person that bought over there too. Yeah.
Yeah, in Greenfield.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. It was crazy. So like the way I came across it is I got drunk one night and I called a buddy in New Braunfels and I said, find me the best deal in New Braunfels. Because Rod Alawan, who was on here 2 weeks ago. So I was like, just find me the best deal in New Braunfels because I know it's going to pop off. I know it's crazy. And I was like really drunk that night. The next day, he sent me 3 options. I looked at all 3 options just like how you did. And I go, this is going to be the best option. I go and we literally put it under contract the next day, like literally the next day. So that was one of those like drunken stupors, pandemic drunken stupors that made me money. So
that's a good one.
Yeah. So
most drunken stupor mistake moments cost people like a new car hood or a girlfriend. Yours got you $150,000.
Yeah, it did. Oh, that's funny. Oh man, Christina's in here lighting up the chat. I love when Christina's in the chat. Thank you, Christina. Ian, what else you got, man? We're talking about the market shifting. That was the whole title of this, but I want to talk about investing. Like, what else we got?
Yeah, I was looking at the percentages that Christina was talking about. I don't have actual answers yet because I haven't parsed through the data, but most of the percentages I'm seeing are anywhere from 2.25% decrease to 8% decrease
In home prices?
in the home prices. So remember we were saying there were about 871 homes that had decreased in the last week.
Yep.
Yeah. So she asked how many or what was the percentage of those decreases.
Yeah, it's interesting because, it's also too. I think a lot of it has to do with the market for sure, but I think the other side of that coin is people are expecting prices to continue going up and not planning for June, July. I think that has a
housing
lot
markets
to
and
do.
stock markets behave very similarly. The difference is a housing market takes 30 or 60 days to show a change, and stock markets can literally plummet in one day.
Yeah.
So all these decisions happen in the stock market just recently, and you've seen all the red and all over there. It's happening right now in the housing market. And I think what consumers need to be thoughtful about is it doesn't hurt to be patient. Everyone's made a ton of money on their houses. Everybody's doing better at their jobs, and everybody's buying cryptocurrency and they look like brilliant. It's not bad to just park that money and be patient and chill out for a little while and watch this thing develop. I think you might have a good opportunity this month, but guess what? By Christmas time, that opportunity might be even better. So you don't want to try to catch a knife while it's falling. That's a bad thing to do. Let it hit the ground to pick it up.
That's one of the best analogies.
I was going to say the same thing. I was like, I hate that I love that so much.
Yeah. I've always tried to grab the knife on the way down just for fun, but no, you're right. It's funny is because my wife the other day, when all the prices started going down, she's like, "Oh, we should sell our stocks." And I was like, "I'm not selling anything." I made that mistake one time. I'm going to tell you about the one mistake, the worst mistake I made in the stock market.
Oh no.
So I had a ton of money in my 401k in Costco stocks. I used to work at Costco stock. I had hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? When the stock was at like 240 a share and dropped to 197. This was like Christmas time a couple of years ago. I'm like, oh man, it's just going to keep going down. And I sold it. Costco stock's at $450 a share.
You know what? The Buffetts and the Grahams of the world say don't buy stock unless you plan on owning it for a very long time.
My fault was selling it, right? I don't even know why I got paper hands. And so now when it comes to stuff like that,
you got scared, you got nervous. You did what everybody else does. You let the fear drive the emotion drive the behavior. And that's what's happening with housing prices, why people make that price decrease quicker than they should. Same thing.
Yeah, I learned that lesson the hard way.
You know what? If you don't need the money right now, hold tight. We got a lot of stuff we bought over the last 5 years stock-wise, and we've had run up. Last year, some of this stuff, I get this one stock that I bought for $10,000. Oh yeah, it's Real Realty. I bought it at I bought $10,000 worth. God, I'm trying to remember the dollar price per share now, but I'm just thinking about how this worked. But it was cheap. I bought $10,000 worth. It ran up to $90,000. And I remember thinking, all right, this is one of the better stock deals I've done. One of the guys in my office was like, let's sell it. And I'm like, no, we think the market's doing well. Let's hang on to this thing. Right now, that 10,000 that went up to 90 is right now worth like 25 or 30. But I believe in the company. I see the way you guys are adding. I see the heart that y'all are growing with.
Yeah.
And I think that another person helped sell y'all, an early mover, helped sell y'all's business model. And y'all don't have to work hard to sell it on people. So that is already done. So I think y'all are going to have a better path to growth. And I still believe in the company. So I plan on holding it for 5 years, and it's going to go past the 90 grand. It's going to go. It's going to be great. But right now it's doing all this crap, but I'm not selling it. It's okay.
Yeah, that early mover was me. that honestly, that early mover was me. So thank you. And I was going to sell too at the same time. I was like, cause I got a bunch of stock for coming over. So I was like, oh, I'll just sell it when it was high. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to wait. But I mean, it went up to 250 a share. Now it's back down like 140 a share. So, but here's the thing. I'm fine with it staying low for right now. Cause the same thing I'm holding, and the Very, very valid point. I have a stock guy now that handles all my stock stuff because of that issue.
So that you don't go drunk selling?
Because I don't drunk sell. I know how to do real estate very well. I stick to real estate. So, but yeah, thanks for the kind words about real. I appreciate that.
I like y'all's company, and the first few people that I met doing it that were good first movers that really helped bring a lot of people, I really like them as a couple. It's Tim and Pond. They're good people.
Yeah.
And I remember Tim telling me, we only want to recruit people that are like us. And I was like, geez, you're going to have a hard time finding that many good humans in this world. But they've done it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what's funny is Christina's the one that told me about real.
No way.
Really?
She didn't go.
That's
She
crazy.
stayed over there at the P.
When I called you, like right away, and I was like, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
And you were like, I'm going too. I was like, gosh, darn it. It's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so stock tips. We are not stock analysts. We're not giving stock advice here. I'm not telling you to go buy real stock. You can if you'd like. I can't tell you what it'll do in the future. I hope it goes up. And Levi from Dallas says that I have the best hair in the game. His is second to mine. So thank you, Levi.
That's just because I always wear a hat.
Yeah.
Your hair is looking really nice over there. I noticed that. I'm 41 years old this year, and I'm like, shoot, man, where's it all going? So good. I like it. It must be the gel, right? It makes it look real thick or what?
No, this is with spit right here. I just want in my so
I like it.
Nice. So market shift. Let's stay on market shift.
All right.
I got nothing else for market shift, to be honest with you. Like I feel like all I've done for the last 2 weeks is analyze every article, done everything I can to watch everything. And you're right. It pays to be patient sometimes.
You've done what makes sense. I think everyone needs to take a deep breath. Do what you did. Understand it to the point where you think you have a pretty decent handle, and you take a deep breath. If you need to make a move because you got a new job, you had an extra baby, if you need to do it, then do it. But ultimately, if your price goes up 10% or 5%, man, that ain't going to change your life. Your mortgage will go up a wee bit or whatever, maybe half a point interest rates. But at the end of your life, if you bought your house at 5% or 10% difference 30 years ago, it doesn't matter. So I still say make those decisions. But if you're heavily vested in real estate, you need to pay more attention. Or if your business, like you guys and mine, is very centric in real estate, you really need to watch, because some service providers do better when the market's strong, so they better pay attention. Some service providers do worse when the market is weak. So they need to watch that from a micro level, but the average person needs to chill the heck out. And if they haven't, maybe they inherited some money or got a big stock option from their company and they want to make an investment, just go ahead and do it. Don't try to be smarter than Warren Buffett,
Yeah. I love the line. I love the line from the movie The Big Short, where the guy goes something about strippers on a pole, and he goes, "I think Warren Buffett said that," and they're like, "What?" I'm not driving a 7 Series without strippers. He goes, "I think Warren Buffett said that." Something like that. Anyway, what advice would you give people? What would you advise people to sell? Would you advise people to sell their real estate now or wait 5 years for that little bit of growth?
That really is more dependent on what's going on in the trajectory of their investing career or their life. A lot of my stuff is real common sense, and people work really hard to overcomplicate it, and I work really hard to uncomplicate it so that I can build this huge business because it's not complicated. So I say, look at it. Is your kid about to go to college and you really want that $250,000 to pay for that kid's college? Then sell it. Don't worry about waiting for 24 months to see if you squeeze out another 6%. You've already made the $250,000 in appreciation over the last 10 years while you held it, and it was designed for your kid to go to college. Sell that real estate. Or if you're 3 years in, maybe you just bought a house and you got $150,000 in equity, but you don't have another place to put that $150,000. You don't want to get whacked on the taxes. I just say hold out. I don't think it's going to be a big problem if you hang on to your investment property in Green, Texas.
In Green, yeah, for sure. I would tell most people that if you don't need to sell right now, don't sell. If you need to sell right now, sell. It's the same thing about buying, right? we can't, we don't always know where prices are going. Over the last 2 years, we've definitely seen the path where things have gone up. And we've been able to say, hey, look, because of what we're seeing in the market, prices are going up. I think you're going to see turmoil for the next year and a half, 2 years, where things are just up and down. I don't
the
think
volatility. When that crap's happening, no one knows what's happening. But the volatility is a sign. It's a strong sign.
Yeah. So I would say if you need to buy and you have a reason to buy, absolutely buy. I think over the next 4 months is going to be the best shot to get a good deal until you hit November. And then I think prices will start to figure themselves out a little bit and just kind of flatten out at that point. So I think the biggest dip, and that's why I'm saying this, is because it's historically, when I'm looking at the numbers, Ian pulled them up, that dip is from really July through about November.
Makes sense. Yep. Makes sense.
I really like what Christina said. Can you pull up her comment about this?
The High Latoya?
Yeah, that's the one. This one.
The difference in good real estate makes a bad real estate market in about 10 years, meaning it will always work out in 10 years.
You know, I've always said the one thing that'll fix all your real estate mistakes is time.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the challenge that people run into, investors in Austin run into, and in fact, I think homeowners too in Austin and a lot of the submarkets around Austin, even San Antonio, Dallas, Houston, is the fact that our property tax system really goes heavily after homeowners. I think that is going to be the biggest draw. This is something I've been talking about for a very long time, is that these property taxes, we have to get control of these property taxes. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
It's tough. If you have a business that does sales tax, or I'm sorry, depending on how your business operates, some are real estate heavy and some are not. You know, if you're not real estate heavy, then you get the benefit of not having different kind of taxation, like some states that have the state-based income tax. You know, you're going to have one of those two. Let me go back. In your state, you're either going to have high property taxes or state income tax. So depending on your product mix in your companies or whatever, you're going to have an advantage there. I'm a heavy real estate guy, so I get beat up. What I would tell people to do is always protest, always. Even if you don't get a home run and get your price lower dramatically, if you keep the horse in the stable, it's a lot easier than trying to get it back in. So I always say fight. Instead of them running you up 100 grand, they might run you up 90, but you still save 10. Extrapolate that over 10 protest years, that could be 100 grand. That means something. So I always encourage people to fight it.
We're just gonna have to do a whole show with your anecdotes.
Don't catch the knife that's falling. What I didn't catch the horse stable. It's easier to catch the horse in the stable than
it's easier to keep the horse in the stable than it is if he gets out trying to get him back in.
That's what it was. I like that.
We got a gal from Japan, from Hawaii via Japan, that works in our office. And for the first couple of weeks, she's like, Logan, you never tell me anything straight. You just have all these anecdotes there. I'm like, they're fun.
Yeah, to keep her on her toes, you know.
Right. Of course.
Yeah, translate it 3 times.
Seems like Austin demand has started to switch over to the San Antonio, New Braunfels area and should help for a higher growth rate compared to Austin area over the foreseeable future. That wasn't really a question, more of a statement, but what are your thoughts on this statement?
I do know for a fact folks are getting exhausted with the high pricing in Austin. They're reaching out. I bought some apartment complex in Caldwell County, which is Luling is what it is. And I found that the rent used to be $900 a month. And there's a base rate that the housing substance will pay. And right now they're going it off of a modified Austin rate that's like, I can't remember what it is, some percentage of Austin. Long story short, that means the housing vouchers that I could get this year for that 52-unit apartment complex used to be $800 2 years ago, are right now $1,800 in a little bitty town like Luling and Seguin and things like that. That is because folks are coming from Austin. I've talked to homeowners in the area and realtors, and they say this little house is 250 grand. It's a palace relative to what it would be in Austin. People are willing to live in Luling and drive to Austin a couple of days a week to their job and then work remote because it's so much less expensive.
Now, Logan, when you do these comparisons and you run these numbers, are you comparing them to sister cities, or are you just sticking within like what you know, the realm you know here?
No, I market in high volume in Texas, all of Texas pretty much. I tried to go far east Texas and far west, but I swath down the middle of it. So it's really, I'm looking for the investment. If it's a really good investment, a good return, I like it. I don't care where it's at, but I'm starting to see correlations with, I bought some apartment complexes in Burnet, Texas. It's about an hour or so outside of Austin, and the rates were double what I thought they would be there too. The Austin effect is happening there.
In where?
Burnet, Texas.
Burnet. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like 40 minutes or an hour west of Austin.
Yeah.
When I went through there to check it out that day, the first time I've been there in my life, go through the drive-through. I think it was a Starbucks in there. And I remember asking the girl, hey, where are you from? She probably thought I was hitting on her. Jeez. But I was like, hey, where are you from? She said, I came from somewhere up north. I said, why'd you move to this little town? She said, I wanted to live in Austin. It was too expensive. I love this little town, and I can go to Austin whenever I want.
The lake is gorgeous. So just like in New Braunfels, you've got a beautiful lake. It's a small town. You've got it's hill country, right? So you have Spider Mountain and a couple other places. Only ski lift in Texas. Check it out. It's a really cool town. So they have a lot of pockets of those really cool little towns. Granger, they're all over. So that's a good one.
Specific little town, these 2-bedroom, 1 bath, I was able to raise the rent when I bought the property. The rent was $550 a month. They were all in month-to-month leases. I immediately raised the rent to $1,100 a month, doubled it, and that was fair market.
You got to be careful who you tell that to, because then everybody comes out and says that you're the evil landlord that's doubling rents.
I'm just trying to pay my property taxes, dude.
I mean, seriously, that's like my property went up $300 a month.
Yeah,
on my rentals. So I mean, I'm protesting it, obviously, but I mean, I'm not paying the difference on that. Who's going to pay the difference on it? It's a tenant. So everybody wonders why the rental rates went up 35% in the last 35. They gone up 35%, but the median for Austin went up 56% in taxes. So that didn't even cover it.
Right.
So they're going to go up even more.
Yeah, I think we should talk about that. Somebody asked that question too about it's just going to get, or mentioned it's just going to get passed on. The costs are going to be passed on to the tenants.
Taxes, yeah.
And it's so true, because every investor that I've helped calls me every time it's time for rent. They're like, can you run the comps? Right? Can you run the comps? My taxes or my mortgage went up to this. Hey, we gotta figure it out. So they have to adjust, because it's a business for them too.
That's right.
And what's interesting is that over the last 2 years, pretty much the moment Tesla announced that they were buying out here, I've seen more uneducated investors try to buy in the Austin area. And this is what has kind of scared me about what's going to happen in the future, is because you have so many buyers that are coming out here. I'm like, the property taxes are going to be really high over the next 2 years. So we really need to make sure that you're having good cash flow now, or do you understand the fact that you're not going to have good cash flow, but you're going to have equity? So you have to figure out which way you want to do this. And there's a lot of agents out there that were just trying to sell homes. Look, we're in the middle of a pandemic, so I understand why agents probably weren't saying as much. I don't agree with it, but there's a whole thing about the PPP loans and realtors that doesn't mind the fact that there was like months that there was only like 3 months of the year that agents really made money. That was the end of the year. But I forgot where I was going with all of that. All these comments are killing me.
One of the things you're talking about is the way the investors are willing to buy a property for the long-term yield. And that used to be something that would happen on the coast, the East Coast and the West Coast. Sometimes they would have a negative cap rate of 1 or 2%, but they knew when they sell that property in 10 years, it would literally be worth 2.5 times what they paid. So their yield was made on exit day.
Yes.
And in Texas, we've been cash flowing since day one. That's how it's worked. But in Austin, folks are now, because the appreciation has been so incredible, they're willing to take a break even, so that when they sell it in 5 or 10 years, they get their yield on exit. That's a completely different strategy, but that speaks to how strong and how fast our market has been moving in Austin.
Well, and you have a lot of people that want to cash in, or they want to be part of it. They want to jump on the bandwagon.
FOMO.
And right, you have a lot of people. They see it. They're like, "Oh, it's hot. I got to get there." And it's been hot. And so what happens is you have people doing whatever they can to get into some of these properties, especially like new builds. So somebody that's never going to be here or hasn't ever been here from another state, they're like, I want to buy all these new builds. and they'll say whatever they want or whatever they can to get the builder to do it. Right.
Yep.
I think that is, that's a problem, because if they don't understand the way the property taxes work, it's going to hit them hard. And that happened a lot over the last couple of years.
I also do hear a lot of newbie investors, or even guys that have a sizable portfolio. They say that in this market, they're buying these $250,000 houses. As long as they can cash flow $300 to $500 a month after they pay the mortgage, they're willing to do that. And I always tell them, dang, in 3 years, you're going to be paying in because of the property tax increase. And when they first time that dawns on them, it's like D-Day. It's crazy.
Yeah, so what's interesting is I've had over the last 2 weeks, I've had more sellers reach out to me than all year. I mean, it's substantial.
Yeah, almost more than buyers, right?
No. We're definitely a heavy buyer business. And that's why I have 2 buyers agents and my wife. But what's interesting is that, so this is to Christina's question, how many new investors will panic and sell? I have a couple that are investors that purchased a couple years ago and that are now selling. I don't have anybody that just bought it a year ago, right? Or during the pandemic. It's people that bought 19 that are now getting ready to sell. And so their life changes and things like that. But a lot of what I'm hearing, the reasons why they're considering now is because of the property taxes. So they've had it for 3 years. Now the property taxes are eating away all their equity, and now they just want to get. And so I'm trying to help them with a 1031 exchange and things like that. But I think it'll be a fair amount. I mean, we had 20%, Ian, 20% of the market, pretty much from pandemic till now, 20% of the buyers in the market were investors, maybe to 22%, depending on the month. 23, depending on the month. So, I mean, that's a heavy amount of people that purchased that weren't homeowners. But think about it. They're putting 25% down. They're putting a lot of money down. So they still have some equity over the last 2 years by putting that much money down. And we've seen prices increase. So I don't know, but I think a fair amount will.
Yep.
So Aaron makes a good point. He has to increase the rent on his rentals by $600 a month just to break even. That is something that a lot of tenants don't understand, but it's also a product of the tax rate in the area that he has the investments in.
Yeah. I mean, these taxing districts, they love their taxes and they love to blame each other for the reasons why taxes are going up, right? The taxing district loves to say, well, it's the city council and the city's job. We're just the ones that assess the taxes. And the city council goes, oh, well, it's the tax district because they're raising. So it's not our fault. Everybody goes, it's not my fault. It's not our fault. Yet nobody does anything about the raising property taxes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, right. So, all right. Anything else good going on in here? There's a question up here. It's a good one right here. Karina, Logan, do you invest in Lubbock or College Station? Any thoughts on these locations?
You know, I'm a big fan of college towns. I have some stuff in College Station right now. I don't have anything in Lubbock, not because I don't want to, it just hadn't happened. College housing has had a lot of attention in the last 10 years, probably. The economy's been good. Lots of people are going to college. They're paying out like crazy. And there's a lot of investment companies that are going to offer really brand new, nice housing in these areas. And it's proving to investors that the students are willing to pay. So it's paving the way for a lot of folks. So I like those. You have a different type of property there. You're going to have a little bit more turnover and a little bit more make-ready work, but you get much higher rents typically. And what I like about it is if you got that kind of change, you know, you're going to get some good equity in a reasonable amount of time. So yeah, I think those are good markets. There's always heavy demand. You don't have to worry about it. And it's also very easy to comp out your stuff because there are 1,000 rental comps. So there's a lot of transparency and visibility there. You're never flying blind in a college town. There's always heavy demand.
But that was Austin.
True, it was.
Right?
Yeah.
For a while there, that's all it was.
It's true. I mean, you have UT, St. Ed's, and then San Marcos right down the street, or Texas State. A&M? A&M's not down there. Texas State.
Well, I mean, San Marcos.
San Marcos, yeah. Here's a great one. This is a great question, Latoya. I love this question. This is a great question. I'm a little confused. If rentals continue up, wouldn't that increase the number of potential home buyers? This is a fantastic question to think about. Ian, what do you think?
Who's going to tackle that one? That's a speculative. It can be speculative.
It is. I think people are incentivized to go buy a house as long as they have the down payment. If they don't have the down payment, they're not going to be able to. But I've got a seller finance portfolio, and that was one of the big linchpins for me. How much can you sell this house for? It's on the payment. So if it costs $1,600 to rent a house in this neighborhood, as long as they can get the down payment, I can make them a homeowner and sell it on a note to them, which allows me to sell it for a slightly higher sales price, as long as I match their payment. So that does happen.
I would almost speculate that a lot of what's driven some of the mass migration, aside from politics and work from home opportunities, is people wanting to buy homes. Their rent is going up where they are. They're paying some ridiculous amount of rent, and they're like, I can get a home in Texas.
Let's go Texas.
Half of what I'm paying. Yeah, just go to Texas.
Pack up the covered wagon, darling. Let's go.
But then think of how that affects people that have already been here, that have been waiting, and they're like, oh my gosh, my rent's going up. I already couldn't afford a home.
This is 100% why you have people waiting.
Right?
This question is 100% why you have people praying and doing the crash dance, right? They're seeing, they're
relying on it,
or believing somebody who's giving them half true data, because the reality is, I think, yes, you will see. So Logan, what you said is very important. And this is why I like this question, is that I think at a certain point, people will go, look, I need to buy because I'm tired of renting. I want to get out of a rental. So I'm going to go buy. But again, the problem is, in the last 2 years, the competition's been so tough. Those people doing VA, FHA, 3.5% down.
They get destroyed by that buyer that comes from California with all that cash.
And remember, you were talking about loans earlier. There in Austin has been, it's called T-Shack loans, all these different loans that basically will give somebody 3 or 3.5% down to buy a home. Those loans have been out the window because nobody is willing to purchase with those. Like nobody's willing to sell to that person, right?
Yeah.
So now with this competition going into a buyer's market, you're going to see a lot more T-Shack loans. You're going to see a lot. And everybody's saying, oh, well, teachers and firefighters and all these people can't afford to live here, which is very true. But now they can get these loans again that they weren't able to get and help where they're not putting. So basically they're putting zero down and they're buying a home. I've sold a couple of those homes recently that clients have bought, and they made money on them, right? Even though they have to pay that 3.5% back out of the proceeds. If you hold on to that for 5 years, you're going to have 30, 40 grand in equity. And so you put zero down, made 40 grand, and got to go put that into a new home.
And basically paid rent every month like you would have.
Exactly. All you do is pay rent. So a lot of people and so this is, hello, realtors. Hello. Hi, Jeremy here. I've just saved you from going out of the business. Go find a lender that does T-Shack loans, that does all these loans that will give zero down to somebody. Because guess what? In 2019, I closed a lot of those loans. Those people that held have a lot of equity now.
Huh.
I guarantee you we see a lot of those loan types come back. So to answer the question, I think we'll see a lot of buyers realize that there is an opportunity and will come off the sidelines. This is why I'm saying it's not going to crash, because guess what? What did I say earlier? A lot of millennials in that buying age are sitting renting right now, and they love not to rent. Some probably want to rent forever. I don't know. Thoughts on that? Yes. Yeah. So what do you think about my thoughts on lenders doing loans like that?
Absolutely. I think that people will be exploring more loan types because there will be the opportunity to do that. And in fact, I think we even talked about it. It may have been not last week, but the week prior, about them discussing bringing some more subprime options. And it's like, come on, people, you don't learn, right? Doesn't mean they won't do it.
I think it's good that there's a blend of loan products out there and a blend of buyer types, because when the market gets too far out of whack, everybody's doing these crazy offers, lots of cash. You need to have some more, it needs to be more homogenous.
Yeah, it's
And I
not
think
realistic to sustain.
right. So I think it would be good to have these kind of opportunities come back. There are a lot of folks that have needed homes, just like the middle of America, that needs these houses and couldn't get it. It's time for them to do that now. They've been terrified for the last few years because they're on the sidelines, and those guys and gals are going to jump a lot faster. And I think it's good to use these kind of loans because it gives folks opportunity that had no opportunity 2 years ago.
I mean,
so
otherwise you have to go to Huntsville. Nobody wants to do that.
Huntsville, Alabama, #1 place to live, right?
Nobody wants to do that.
There's
Somebody wants to.
I was supposed to have a girl on last week. We didn't do last week, but I was supposed to have I was supposed to have Logan on last week. I was supposed to have this girl on this week from Huntsville to talk about why Huntsville is so great. So we'll do that again. Doodle attack. All right, Logan, any final words, man?
I echo the same things I usually say a lot, and they work in almost all circumstances. Be patient, be thoughtful, don't overreact, don't be too fast. Those are the recommendations I give people in good markets and bad markets, and in all cases. So I think you got to use your common sense right now.
Ian, what do you got?
I have a question for Logan. Logan, you have
No, Susan, he doesn't.
He'll
be back on here. He's gonna be the third Migo from now on.
I know. I kind of like it.
Is that it? Do we find her? Do we just become best friends?
Oh. Put it to a vote. All right,
the
Logan.
missing scene from Step Brothers.
Yeah.
All right, Logan. Somebody comes to you today and says, "Hey, I've got $1 million cash. Where do I put it right now?" I know you're gonna say wherever the best deal is, but if everything was the same on paper, what city would you buy in right this minute? Or
I would say San Antonio because I understand it. I feel good about it. I'd go there. Yeah.
Are you buying in the Metaverse?
Gosh.
This is the qualifications for joining.
Yeah, that's and will you grow a mullet?
Yeah, and will you grow a mullet?
I'd grow a mullet. Why not? I've done dumber things. I actually have a picture of me having a mohawk.
Did you just call mullets dumb?
I had a mohawk in middle school, dude. A mullet wouldn't be too crazy. I tell you what, I don't have any real estate in the metaverse. I don't really get it well. I think I know regular real estate enough to retire from it. And at this point, I do things I know really, really well. I'm not willing to do things I don't get well. So metaverse, it's out. I'll miss the mark on that one.
Look, you know your lane. And if it's working, why, if it's not broken, why try to fix it?
Early on, I tried a lot of different things where I would learn, and I'd always say, "Oh, I'm going to learn from it. I'm done learning, dude. Let me just make some money."
And buy Mustangs.
Done learning.
Buy
I
all
get
Mustangs.
paid to read. I get paid to lead.
Right?
Yeah. Well, cool. Thanks everybody for joining. Logan, if people want to reach out to you, what's the best place to find you?
If you'll put my name into Google, it's Logan Fulmer, Fullmer, down there on your screen. You'll find me on Facebook. You'll find me on Instagram. I'm getting ready to do a TikTok, I guess. So you'll find me in those places.
Yeah, you don't want China to have your information. Ian gave all of his information to China already. I'm against it.
On my fourth phone.
Yeah.
And I named the account Jeremy Knight. So
did you? Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Did you put my phone number in there?
No, it goes into my Chinese CRM.
CRM. Nice.
I mean, all the data. At the end of the day, the data is all over the place.
Yeah,
they can find you. Everybody can find you.
So, funny enough, I just had a conversation with a guy who's like this with a certain particular person, very well named, that moved to Austin and brought a big car company here, and they are friends with or know someone that's high in the intel agency, and they said do not under any circumstances put that on your phone. So
put what on your phone?
Yeah, but you know why they're saying that? Because the rumor is that Tesla's releasing a phone. Come on.
No. Hey, by the way, everybody, I'm moving